Hey everybody, it's Jamie and welcome to Dev Diary number 21, where today we're going to be talking about how you can leverage your best defensive players in Geeked-Out basketball. And as usual, thank you so much for joining us for this Dev Diary series because here at Geeked-Out Basketball, we are building the world's best deep tactical basketball simulation game. It's Football Manager for basketball because hardcore basketball sim gamers like all of you need your game too. Now, without further ado, let's jump right in. Okay, and before I get in, a little housekeeping for y'all. For you diehards who are following the channel, you notice I didn't put up a video this past Wednesday. Just been doing a lot of technical work recently. And just so you know the cadence for these Dev Diary series, I do my best to put out 2 videos a week, one on Sunday and one on Wednesday. Sunday's the non-negotiable. You're always going to get a video update on Sunday. Wednesday will usually happen, but if I don't have, I was doing a ton of technical work and there was really nothing new to show you. Again, made a lot of significant progress on the back end, but it was nothing that you were going to see or feel as the user. The main thing I was working on, and I finally cracked the code on, was the persistence. So, setting game plans and playbooks and that type of stuff. Now I put a bulletproof persistence plan into place. Before we were kind of all over the place with what was being saved at the database, what was being saved in local storage, how we were using the cache. It was kind of clumsy. And so just really got tight and crisp on that. But the other good news is I'm doing some more cleanup. And I was able to build a couple more features that I'm excited to show you today. And but what you will notice is some of the cleanup that we're doing, a few small features are broken. So I'm in the tournament screen right now. If you notice, like for example, team data is not populating in chemistry, etc. We're cleaning up use of team identification variables. And so a few just display things are broken. We'll get that cleaned up. But there's a couple new features I wanted to show you. And before we jump into that, just a little housekeeping. So we were originally targeting to get the game alpha live and playable by this coming Wednesday, January 28th. Now, admittedly, that was a kind of aggressive timeline, but it was one that if things would have lined up perfectly, we would have met. Now it's looking more like, I'll be honest, probably 2 weeks after that. I'm going to give you a more firm update on that this coming Wednesday. So we're going to do a video this Wednesday. And once we know that that's firm, what I'm going to do is start actively giving out codes. So we're going to have a series of one-time use codes. And when I mean one time, it's going to be linked to one email address and for a limited number of alpha testers. And for those of you who have registered on our gobalpha.com website to be one of our early testers, you're going to receive an email with the opportunity to secure one of those codes. That code will be linked to your email address, and then you'll be able to play the alpha as much as you want, but that code will only be able to be used by one email address. And so if you haven't signed up for the alpha and you're interested, just link in the description below, gobalpha.com. And there's also a link to our Discord below. And I do get on the Discord at least daily to check for messages. And I haven't been getting many yet, but that's going to pick up the more people that we introduce to the game and the Dev Diary series and the alpha, and then when we actually launch the game, the beta. But that's going to be the place where if you want a direct line into me, that's going to be probably your best place. But right now, our group is still small enough that I can respond to YouTube comments as well pretty consistently. So with that being said, let's just jump right in. So I'm in a tournament. I'm playing as Bentley Truman. And a feature that I want to show you is defensive matchups. So let's go to play our next game. And so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to kind of auto set a lineup. And let's see, I do want to get Xenon in here because he's my best player. We're going to bring Trent up to shooting guard. And then we're going to move Omar to power forward. Let's do it like this. And then I want to take a look of what I have defensively going on here. So like Trent and Xenon are pretty strong outside defenders. Kermit is a decent inside defender. Omar, slightly less effective inside defender. And then Ronnie is kind of an inside out. He can guard inside and outside. So that context is there because here's the way the defensive matchups are going to work. Because right now I kind of feel like we've built in a lot of ability for you to manage your offense pretty specifically based on your vision, with the play call center, building playbooks, that type of stuff. But the defense is just as important in basketball. So we want to give you opportunities to manage that as a coach as well. But before we do that, I actually just reminded myself, I do want to customize the playbooks for this game. And I want to run the offense through Ronnie at small forward. So let's do this. And then let's build our play call center plays real quick. So for single game mode, you always have to do this before every game. And in franchise and tournament, these will persist if you build them once. I just simulated my first round game and didn't set any of these. So that's why they did not persist. I'm going to pull back on my 1-3-1 because that's more of a niche offense. I'm playing Little York, who is much better inside scoring than outside. So I'm actually going to do a 25% 3-2. And then that leaves me with 65% to round this out, to run more 2-3. Okay. And another thing that I want to show you all, and I'm going to adjust my game plan. I'm going to pull back on presses and traps because frankly, we don't need to. And a little nugget for you all, presses and traps are great defenses to run if you want to disrupt your opponent, if you have the players to do it. They do fatigue the defense more than they fatigue the offense. So you're going to get penalized more from a fatigue standpoint, which may or may not matter to you depending on how you're running your team, but and what kind of depth you have. But that's something to keep in mind. I'm going to pull back on that a little bit. I'm going to get back on D a bit more to prevent their fast breaks. I'm going to keep my fast breaks at 50-50, and I'm going to do attacking the ball a little bit more. Now, from a defense perspective, I'm going to dial up zone defense to a 3, and I will explain why when we get into the defense matchups. And then I'm going to dial up the motion offense to a 3 as well, or 75% likelihood compared to 25% plays. The reason for that, if you've seen my videos before, I like to set all 6 of my plays in the play call center that I can call during live gameplay to override whatever play is in play, to be set plays. And then I like to rely on just the motion being run a bit more often than if I'm not overriding play. So the thought is if I'm letting the game sim call the games for me based on my settings, let's go more into motion. And then I, as the coach, will micromanage set plays. One thing to know defensively, and I'll show you when we do the defense matchups, you can specify matchups based on your opponent's lineup, so who's guarding who, but that only applies to man defense because in zone defense, your players are just going to be at certain spots in the zone. And so what I like to do is dial up the zone from what the computer simulation is going to call for me more turn by turn. And then if I like my man defense matchups based on what I set, which you're going to see that soon, then I will use the play call center to force more man defensive calls. So let me just save this game plan and I'll show you what I mean. So the defense matchups is going to come. It only appears if you press the play quarter button. If you sim the full game or sim the quarter, then you're not going to be managing defensive matchups because these reset after every break, whether it's a quarter break, a timeout, or a player foul out situation. But what you do is you press play quarter. Then you're going to get this pop-up. Now, don't judge the design. I'm still working on the design, but honestly, with like no designer, I don't hate it, if I'm being honest with you. But what you have here is you have your players on the left, and then you have the lineup that your opponent is putting in on the right. And now what you can do is drag and drop your players to match up defensively who they're going to guard. And this is just for man defense. And these settings are going to hold until we hit the next break. And so then when we hit the next break, man settings are going to reset to point guard on point guard, shooting guard on shooting guard, etc. But you'll always be cued with this pop-up coming out of a break to set your defensive matchups again, unless you don't want to do this. If you don't want to manage that and don't want to get annoyed by this pop-up coming up after every break, you can just click this don't show this pop-up again this game, and then you won't be cued with that anymore. But here's how I like to look. So we're showing the key defensive attributes for every player in the lineup here. Inside defense, outside defense, agility, strength, endurance, IQ, where his energy level's at, and then the key stat, which is his defensive success rate for that game. So you can kind of get a sense for maybe a player or two are performing really well defensively for that game. And then over here for your opponent, you see all of your opponent's players' key offensive attributes. So inside scoring, outside shooting, agility, strength, endurance, IQ, where their energy is, and then how many points have they scored so far. So that kind of gives you a sense. You can get a sense as a player kind of in the zone or killing you offensively. Maybe you want to focus on him a bit more. And then the opponent's players are going to be stationary, so they'll just kind of be in these spots. But then you can drag and drop your players to switch defensive assignments. And then what will happen is, say you join, let's just say you want to flip-flop your two guards. You drag Xenon over to Trent. They flip-flop. And then one thing you'll notice over here is the color schemes flip-flop to match who's guarding them. So the point guard is always going to be pink box with a pink outline. Shooting guard, orange box with an orange outline. Small forward, yellow. Power forward, light blue. And center is purple. Now, again, I don't know if I love these super pastel-y themes, but honestly what they do is they're very clearly differentiated and they don't dominate the information too much, so I don't mind it. But you'll notice that the color of the box for the opponent and the border will adjust based on which player here is guarding them, just to give you a bit more confirmation that your adjustment has taken hold. So here's what I would look at here. So I'm looking at who my opponent has in the lineup, and I see two really strong offensive players I want to account for. There's Largefoot, who's a strong inside scorer with great agility. He's also strong and can shoot the ball. So he's best at driving to the basket, but he can also shoot. So I'm probably going to want to put my best all-around defender on him. And then there's Landreneau down here, who is a pretty decent inside scorer, and he's very strong. So I'm going to want to put someone on him who he's not going to be able to push around. And then actually I want to look at Buford too. So one thing the computer tried to do here was stash a really strong outside shooter with at the center position. Buford also happens to have pretty good rebounding ability, so this placement makes a lot of sense. But I'm glad he did this, because normally I would have Kermit here guarding him, which he has a 0 outside defense. He has 3 agility, so decent footwork, but he only has a 2 endurance. He's probably going to get pretty fatigued trying to keep up with this outside shooter Buford. So I know right away that I want to put Prospect, who's my better inside defender, and he's strong. I'm going to put him on Landreneau. So I'm going to start here and flip-flop these two. But I still don't really like, I don't know how much I like Nola guarding Buford, because Nola's not a good outside defender, but he does have decent footwork. That being said, I do know I want to put Ronnie, who's my best all-around defender. I want to put him on Largefoot. So we're going to do that. And now the question comes down to, I think I want to flip-flop Nola and Athens, honestly, because Nola, with his 6 inside defense and his 7 strength, is better equipped to guard Farabee, who's at a 4 scoring, 7 strength. And then Athens is a 7 outside defender, and he's still physically pretty capable, with a 7 agility and a 4 strength, and he has high endurance. I absolutely want to flip-flop these two. And then the last thing I want to consider is, who do I want? Herndon's going to be the easiest guy to guard. And one thing that's going to happen is, an easier guy to guard, your defender is going to exert a little less effort, most likely to do that, so they'll fatigue just a little bit slower. That won't have as much impact on how much they fatigue as their endurance trait. Their endurance trait's the most important variable to that. But still, do I want to maybe put Xenon and save Trent? I'm not too worried about it. I'm going to keep Trent on Buford. They both have strong endurance. They're both good outside defenders. They're both good athletes. And, I mean, yeah, honestly, they're pretty interchangeable when I look at things. And honestly, I maybe want to keep a little pressure off Xenon since he's my All-American point guard and just kind of let him focus more on running the offense, which I kind of like this. So this is set up. So I'm going to hit submit defense matchups. And now I'm going to force man defense down here. So I've clicked man defense in the play call center. And so watch this. Like you'll see the sprites. I'm going to slow this down a little bit so you can. I'm actually going to go down to slow, which is going to feel slow. But check this out. Like you saw the power forward was matched up on the shooting guard. We'll see this next time Bentley Truman gets the ball. And you see the computer makes their matchups as well too. So they've got different positions guarding different players based on the same, the computer has its own logic. All right, Trent just hit a 3. Okay, we're going to go to half court offense. Great. So check this out. Small forward guarding the shooting guard. So that's Ronnie guarding Largefoot. And yeah, and then obviously defensive stats are going to attribute accordingly, right? And so you'll be able to track your players' defense success rate during the game, as well as during the season, during the tournament. And you'll be able to see how well your strategies are working. The best way to see how well your strategies are working is, are you keeping your opponent from scoring too many points, which so far so good with these custom matchups. And yeah, I mean, our defense is playing really well. That's working out nicely. Let's maybe pull back on the man and just kind of see what the computer calls. I'm probably going to get a zone defense this time because I'm overweight zone for the computer calling my defense logic. Yeah, we're rebounding well. I mean, yeah, we're probably going to get to the tournament championship. Okay, we're running a full court press here, so we're not going to see it. I'm going to dial up the speed a little bit. Okay, yeah, we're in a 1-3-1 zone now, right? So when I'm letting the computer call things for me, we're getting into zone, but I really like my defense matchups based on the play call center. So I'm going to go back to man. We're rebounding well. Yeah, we're doing really well. I think the computer might call a timeout pretty soon. Yeah, we forced to travel. We have a lot of momentum right now. Yeah, we're rebounding the heck out of them. Okay, let's see how our man defense matchups do. You see we've got we forced another one. Okay, so that gives you a sense for how the defense matchups work. I think you can have a lot of fun with this. Our vision is defense is just as important as offense. So we want to give you just as many levers to manage defense as we do to manage offense in this game. And we're building up to that. But again, the whole idea or the whole thought process with this game is we're going to overload you with information and options. It's our job to make sure you understand those and what those are. But then you as the coach, you need to decide where you're going to focus your attention. And so maybe you want to be a more defensive-minded coach. Maybe you want to try to do both. Maybe you'll be a more offensive-minded coach. Maybe you'll focus on something else. That's really on you to figure out. I'm really surprised I'm getting a 16-0 game here. But another thing I want to show you is timeout. So we've reworked the timeout as well because I didn't like that 2-second delay with every inbound pass, baseline or sideline inbound pass. It was just making the sim take a little bit too long. So one thing we've done now is you press this timeout button, and this is going to persist, just kind of be clear. Okay, there it went. That actually did not work how I wanted it to. But let's just make a couple subs, and I'm going to have to look into that. Of course, I tested the heck out of this thing, and it worked perfect every time. But yeah, this gives me another chance to show you the defense matchups. So when you come out of timeout, I'm queued with the defense matchups again. Let's just kind of take a quick look. So they have a really good outside shooter, 2 really good outside shooters, 3 good outside shooters, not much inside. So I want to get my best. I definitely want to get my best outside defenders on these shooters. So let's just get Trent, who's a bit more imposing physically. Let's get him on Smith. Let's get Fletcher on McBurns. Yeah, but I don't like that I don't have anyone. Yeah, this is going to be tough. I'm going to keep Castleman on Cotton. And then we'll just put Nola on Buford. Don't love that. And then Freddie Anderson will guard Herndon. We'll go back. But I do want to show you, so timeout. This will hold, but you can also turn it off, right? So now the timeout is not queued again. But when it is queued, the next time we hit a dead ball or you get a defensive rebound, it's going to call a timeout. So there we go. See, we just made a basket. So, or I'm sorry, well, an inbound is technically a dead ball where you can call a timeout. So that's how the timeout functionality will work as well. Again, there's that one little bug I need to clean up. I think what happened in that previous one, it was just an animation timing issue. I think that was a turn where I got a defensive rebound, and it just didn't animate the shot attempt and the defensive rebound. But anyway, this will be good. I can do one more round of defensive matchups just to kind of show you how those work. And we'll do it. So again, every time, if you don't want to do this, you can always press this box down here, but I love micromanaging this type of stuff. So let's take a look. They got two really good shooters, and they've got a pretty good all-around inside guy here, and then they've got Farabee, who's physically strong relative to the other guys. So how do I want to manage this? Let's get my best outside defenders here. Great. And then let's get one of my better inside defenders here. I like that. I'm actually going to put Freddie here. He's a bit stronger than Workman. And let's do it. Okay, well, they're finally going to score some points here in the first quarter. Let's finish the quarter, and then we'll call it a video. That'll do it. Yeah, so we're still not animating the final turn correctly. We scored a basket there, so a 21-2 first quarter. That's not normal, but sometimes you're going to get quarters like this, right? So yeah. So again, if you all have any thoughts or ideas, or just comments, please leave them below. I do read all the comments. I really enjoy getting comments from you all. And look for the video coming out this Wednesday where I'm going to have a more concrete update on the timing of the alpha. And lastly, and most importantly, as usual, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. That really does mean a lot to me. And if you have watched it this far and want to support us, the best thing you can do right now before becoming an alpha tester is to give us a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and maybe even tell some of your sports simulation friends about us as well. The more momentum we can get with people following us and a community built, the more exciting it's going to be for everybody to play this game. Okay, I hope you all have a great day today. For those of you who are NFL fans, enjoy the AFC and NFC championship games. I'm going to be watching them while I'm debugging things here. And I look forward to giving you a concrete update on the alpha this Wednesday. Okay, bye-bye.